everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Gia. I'm a 26-year-old lady who lives in my mom's basement, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I saw this video done by a fellow creator. Her name is Ariel Reeds. So I have a couple of lists that I pull books from to create my monthly TBRs, but what I really want to do is I want to put effort into starting book series that I have long since put off because I find myself going towards these books that are either standalones or duologies or trilogies, and I'm kind of missing out on some book series that are quite long. I actually just finished my revisiting of Vampire Academy, which is 6 books long, so I want to do more of that. So I have a couple of lists that I pull from every month to construct my monthly TBRs, and then any space that is left over is filled with mood reads or seasonal reads. So I wanted to construct this list made solely out of things that I have not already put on a list. So this is a new list. To be clear, this is a brand new list because I have my fall 2022 list. So unless I'm wrong, there are only 6 standalones. One of them has a sequel in production, so it is currently a standalone. One of them has a sequel novella. One has a prequel and then a sequel in production. And then the rest are either duologies, trilogies, or etc. Where books like The Poison Season come from, which I still haven't finished, I'm working on it. And then I also have my 12 books for 12 months list that was all recommended to me from real life friends. So I pull like one book from that every month, and then I pull 1 or 2 books from the fall 2022 list. So I just mentioned that I just finished Vampire Academy and my revisiting of it. If you want to look at my reviews, go to my Goodreads. It is only appropriate that the first series that I added to this list is Bloodlines by Rochelle Mead. I have heard that people do like Bloodlines better, or that Bloodlines is better than the original series. I don't know that because I haven't read it yet, but I have heard that people do prefer Bloodlines over Vampire Academy. Overall, I know I haven't recorded the Vampire Academy Part 2 video yet, but overall, Vampire Academy as a whole series of 6 books received a 4.25 star rating from me, where the 4th book was the weakest out of all of them, but Bloodlines is another, I believe, 6 book series, so I am excited to dive into that. Also, I am super excited to get more of Adrian and finally give him the love story that he deserves, because I ended Vampire Academy being very upset. I mean, I love Rose and Dimitri with all my heart, but Adrian deserves better, so I can't wait to read about his love story. The next book is one that I actually own. I know, shocking, but it's Axiom's End by Lindsay Ellis. I am a massive fan of hers from YouTube. I know she has since quit YouTube, but over the years I have been a massive fan of hers. This is now a duology. The second book is published. It's called Truth of the Divine. I bought this like 3 years ago, and it's just been sitting on my shelf. It's part of my very long physical TBR, but I am excited to finally crack this book open. But I know that this is more of like a sci-fi pick, which is an uncommon pick for me. I am not usually a sci-fi girly by any means. It is usually not my tea. I have that friend of mine who recommended me 72 books this year. Shout out to Connor. I love you. But that guy who recommended me 72 books recommended me a lot of sci-fi. And I did take some recommendations. I was like, you know what? I need to spread my wings. I need to discover new genres. And usually sci-fi is not my thing, but I love Lindsay and I cannot wait to read this. Next is a book that probably everybody and their mother has read, but Babel by R.F. Kuang. I think I'm going to pick up the audio version of this because I just think it's just going to be much more impactful of an experience if I listen to it versus read it. Next is a YA pick, but Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I recently read Realmbreaker last year and I really liked it. I will eventually pick up Bladebreaker. I don't want to say like her most popular series because I actually don't know if it is or not, but this is like the series I know Victoria Aveyard for writing. I bought these for Black Friday like a million years ago, I think like my senior year of undergrad, and they've been sitting on my shelf ever since. I actually don't know if Glass Sword is the sequel or the 3rd book in the series, so I guess I'm gonna find out. So I know there's like four. I think there's four books in the Red Queen series, but I actually own two of them already. Okay, these are the last ones that I physically own, but I got these from like the bargain part of the bookstore off campus shop that anyway, I bought them for like $1 a piece, but I've always been a huge fan of historical fiction. I really don't read enough of it, but the Plantagenet and Tudor novels from Philippa Gregory's backlog, there's like 16,000 of these based on real women in history. Multiple of these have become series on Stars, and I believe The Other Boleyn Girl is a movie starring Kirsten Dunst, I think. Anyway, The White Queen is actually the first book in the series, and it is a Stars original series. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on these finally, but I own two of them. I almost unhauled these because there are so many of these books by the same author that I thought maybe getting them in a box set secondhand would actually be pretty cheap, but I'm not sure if I want to own them quite yet because I'm going to be moving within the next year. So I decided to hang on to them for a minute. Also, I went through a Henry VIII and his six wives phase. Anybody fans of Six the Musical? Because I sure am. And that concludes the segment of this video in which I can actually hold up physical books because now I don't own any. The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. It came out in 2021. It was a debut novel. The next series I want to read is Fable by Adrienne Young. I was actually drawn to this series originally because Saint came out during fall 2022, and I had added it to my fall 2022 list. But upon finding out that it was a prequel to a trilogy, I decided that I would kind of check out what this was about. And I believe Carrie Can Read talked about this and said that she loves this series. And she has said that Adrienne Young is a favorite author of hers. So generally, she and I kind of like the same things. So I was like, I got to check this out. So I added Fable to this list, and then I'll be able to read Saint, which is a fall 2022 pick. So that's exciting. Then next, of course, is Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. I'm so sorry. I keep saying her name wrong. I don't know how I've escaped from reading Six of Crows for my entire life, but upon the Shadow and Bone series coming out, with it being kind of mixed with Six of Crows to kind of make it like a combination of the two series, I still have not watched the TV series because I want to read the books first. So I'm going to start with Six of Crows and then move to Shadow and Bone and then watch the TV show. Shadow and Bone is not on this list, just so you know, because I'm kind of considering it my whole journey into reading Lee Bardugo's backlog. But Six of Crows needs an honorable mention, so that's next. Next is the Once Upon a Broken Heart duology by Stephanie Garber. This is the same author who wrote Caraval, which is a YA series that I never really got into. Oh, actually, there's a third book coming out? Well, I'll be damned, Stephanie. You're gonna write a trilogy? Oh, it comes out in September. Okay, we've got time. Next is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This is considered a standalone, but it does have a sequel novella, so maybe not. It has a 1.5. It doesn't have a true sequel. I don't know if that means that Margaret will never write a sequel, but as of right now, it is a standalone, and I have heard a lot of really, really good things about it. And even before I really started my booktube journey, I saw this book being recommended to me, and it's been on like 3 of my wish lists, so I want to go ahead and actually read this. Next is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This book caught my eye because it has to do with sirens. This got a Goodreads Choice Award for nominee for Best Debut Author in 2018. So this book is about 5 years old. But what drew me to this book is not just the cover, but the fact that this was about sirens. And we all know like what I've talked about with trends in media and how like Twilight set off a vampire craze and of werewolf craze, but then ACOTAR and The Cruel Prince set off a fae craze. I want to read this book because I'm wondering if I'm going to notice like a siren craze after this. or I know it's a 5-year-old book. I'm not saying that it's an immediate follow-up trend reaction, but I'm really wondering if this kind of stands apart from all the others as far as trends go, in that it is by itself like about a mythical creature that doesn't become a focal point in every single fantasy romance author's new release. Because I swear everybody, like when everybody was writing about vampires, now they're all writing about fae. And this is the only siren that I've seen, but also the cover is beautiful. So that too. Next is Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This book is very, very long. According to Goodreads, it is 848 pages. That is about 100 pages longer than Sarah J. Marathon's longest book, I think. So this book is going to be very long. I will probably not have that many other books around the same time that I read this, but this book intrigues me. This book was pitched to me as lesbian high fantasy, and I will be first in line to get it at the library the second it becomes available. That's all I needed to know. All jokes aside, I have heard a lot of good things about this, so I am excited to read it. Also, it has a prequel and a sequel in production currently, so I honestly thought that what is the prequel? The prequel, A Day of Fallen Night, came out more recently. So I kind of want to read it in order of publishing, because I think that would make the most sense, right? So read Priory of the Orange Tree and then A Day of Fallen Night and then the sequel. I don't know. I really don't want to put myself in a position where I have to reread an 850-page book before the sequel comes out. Okay, also the sequel to Priory of the Orange Tree doesn't have a release date. It doesn't have a title. It doesn't have a picture. It doesn't have anything. It's just the fact that it's going to be a sequel. And it's going to be gay. And that's it. That's all we know. So at this rate, I'll probably have to reread it anyway by the time I get around to it. Next, we're going to have two books that satisfy my Greek mythology hyperfixation when I was a kid. The first being Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I didn't want to put Song of Achilles and Circe on this list, even though I want to read the both of them, but I am interested in this author's backlog, period. And in that same vein, Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I am interested in reading multiple books by her, but I decided to put the one that I am most interested in on this list. They are considered standalones, but they are all historical fiction, which I, again, am very interested in reading more of. And then next, a series that as a TV show and as a game series, I have become a massive nerd about, The Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. I think I said that right. I had to say it very slowly. But yes, it needs no explanation. The Witcher. I love it. I am a massive fan of the TV show. I am very upset that Henry Cavill is not leaving it. But if they're going to drastically change the show away from the source material, I understand why he left. But did you have to give us the lesser Hemsworth? That's all I'm saying. Okay, so this next series, it's a little unclear how many books are in it. But the Iron Fae series by Julie Kagawa, I'm very sorry if I said that incorrectly, but on Amazon it says that there's 7, but on Goodreads it says there's like 10, but there's a lot of novellas in between. I'm not entirely too sure. Like Goodreads goes 1, 1.25, 1.5, book 2, book 3, book 3.5, book 3.6, book 4, book 4.4. Book 4.5, Book 5, Book 6, Book 7, Book 7.5, Book 8, Book 9, Book 10. Why? Anyway, I'll read it all regardless, but it looked really interesting to me. This was one of the series that the newer book covers, which I'll show them, they're right here. The newer book covers drew me in a lot, but I am very intrigued by this series. The next book is a standalone, Nettle and Bone. That rhymed. This was initially a book I was attracted to because of the cover, but I have also heard very many good things about it. I have also heard that it is kind of a mix between like fantasy and gothic horror, which is not exactly a mix that you find very often. So I don't know if I'm going to have a good time or if I'm going to be scared shitless, because Gothic horrors can be a vibe. They can be camp. Gothic horrors can be camp, but I also scare really easily and I get nightmares. So I'm scared. The next book series I want to read is the Glass Library trilogy by C.J. Arthur. This was originally a book series that I saw being recommended by Peruse Project or Reagan. It looked extremely interesting to me, but the tagline being a librarian with a mysterious past, like, you've already got me. And there's a heist with a painting involved. I'm sold. Like, anything that has to do with libraries and museums and anything, like, that sounds awesome. If anybody actually could recommend me, I know that, like, I'm a baby channel, but, like, if anybody could actually recommend me, like, any books that are, like, fantastical, that have, like, archaeology, that would be cool as shit. Like, I'd hop all over it, and I would talk about whether or not, like, the archaeology is good and ethical. This next choice could be setting myself up for disaster, but I want to give her a second chance, but also all of the book covers are really pretty. The Chronicles of Ixia series by Maria V. Snyder. Y'all know my history with Miss Snyder. In that, now I forget the name of the book. Good. Honestly, because it was bad. The book covers on this are pretty simple, but they are quite alluring. These books kept getting recommended to me on Kindle, and their covers just looked so good, but they're all based on different studies of magic. Like, the first book is called Poison Study, and then the second is Magic Study, then Fire Study, Shadow Study, Night Study, and Dawn Study. Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. Pause in the middle of what I was just talking about. So, Poison Study, Magic Study, and Fire Study. It says that they are Chronicles of Ixia books 1 through 3. But then you get to book number 4, Shadow Study, and it says Chronicles of Ixia book 7. Ma'am, where are books 4, 5, and 6? Maybe there are just novellas that I don't know about or that Amazon doesn't know about. I would like to give Maria another chance. Because, like I've said previously, Touch of Power had a lot going for it in the world building department, but the execution was ass. So I would like to give Maria another chance. But if she fails me a second time, then I'm not dealing with this again. But I would like to give her, as a woman in fantasy, another chance. Next is Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. This is a current standalone with a sequel in production, and it was a nominee for Best YA Fantasy and Science Fiction last year. It was on a bookshelf where it was like, what would Wednesday Addams be reading right now? And I almost picked it up. But then I was like, I'm gonna wait. This book sounds incredibly interesting because the main character is a prophet, but she's lying about everything. And I think that that is awesome. That reminds me of when Eddie Redmayne went on, what was it? Was it Fallon or Kimmel? Where he talked about how he wrote his entire, like, master's thesis on a block of the color, of a certain color blue. But that's what that reminds me of, like, bullshitting your way through life. Next, we have another historical fiction pick, but also a standalone. It's Anastasia by Sophie Lark. I have heard a lot of good things about Sophie Lark as an author, but I also really like the Anastasia story. I'm also a huge fan of the movie and the musical. The only thing is, like, the love interest's name is not Dimitri, it's Damien, which, fine, but, like, it had to be tweaked due to copyright, I'm sure. The next series is A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. The name of the series is French, and I don't want to get roasted for not being able to pronounce things in French. So this is a series that was originally written in French and it was translated to English. I am really intrigued about this book because it was published in an entirely different country and then it picked up traction in the United States. So I'm wondering, like, am I going to see different trends or different magic systems or that kind of thing. I'm interested into seeing, like, what is going to be different about a fantasy written by a French author. And then, last but not least, it has been 52 minutes. Let's get the show on the road. The Scholomance series, written by our AO3 queen, Naomi Novik. When I have previously said that Olivia Blake was, like, one of the queens of fanfiction.net, Naomi Novik is the founder of AO3. I have never read anything by her before, so I am extremely interested in reading something by her because she founded a really popular fanfiction site. And I know I love Olivia Blake's writing because I loved her fan fiction. So I'm going to walk into the Atlas 6 and the Atlas Paradox already ready for a great time because I love the author's writing style already based on their fan fiction style. So I am intrigued to see if I also like Naomi Novik, who is also, Olivia Blake didn't found fanfiction.net. I am interested to see, authors that are linked to fanfiction. I would like to see more positive representation because the best that we have, and by best, I mean the worst that we have, is Cassie Clare. I've read her books too, guys. Don't come for me. They weirded me out then too. I would like more positive representation of published authors that originated from a fanfiction space that are not, on the whole, not great people. I've been filming for 55 minutes. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you'd like to find me anywhere else, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drink water and be nice to each other and exude kindness and empathy with everything that you do. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.